Hey guys, this is Chris, and this is going to be more of a personal video because I have some free time and I wanted to talk about some of the things I do in my spare time. I've talked about my board game collection, but I never really went into something I used to do in my youth, which I'm slowly getting into it as I have more free time, and that used to be painting models. Like this guy here, for example. I can't even remember what this thing was called. I think it's a Zaku from Gundam. I used to really be a fan of Gundam. I was always a bigger fan of some designs more than others. I was never a huge fan of the actual titular Gundam. Some people call it the RX-78 and so forth. I'm not a huge fan of that design. I do like some of the alternates. And this is also something that's pointing to my painting style. I do a weathered look for a lot of them. Uh, I used to have a whole bunch, and I'll show a photo here of my youth. This is when I was really, really young, in my 20s. And I used to have a lot more. And my building, I wasn't terribly impressed with how I built them. And so most of these models have been dismantled and used for parts for other things. So a lot of these are much older. And so they've actually been, like over time, this guy, for example, has lost the tubes up top here, for example. So these are, this model is probably 15, 20 years old at least. Most of these models are from F91. That's where most of these models were. F91 was a really great series. They had a bunch of relatively inexpensive 1/100 scale models. He's got two shields because I actually had two kits of this guy. There's a beige, kind of a beige one, a slightly more basic, and this one's more advanced. It has this gun up here. And so the shield is actually from that model. And that model has been kind of thrown out and used for parts. So this is the more advanced model. And he has these little bits on the side as well. This is one of the newer ones. I might say newer one is still about 15 years old. One of the last ones I did before I took a considerable break was this one. This is a more traditional, I wouldn't say more traditional, but it's more of a recognizable Gundam. You can tell by his head. And this guy had some variable pieces, so he can actually move. I'm not going to try to move this guy, but I do know that these whole things move in the bag. Let's see if I can do it. Yep, it still works. Pretty easy, actually, to move them. These guys all had rubber joints, and they kind of hold up. Yeah, a bunch of little moving bits on them. I never bother, really. The other thing I like with the 1/100 scale is that the hands are very actually adjustable. So he's actually grabbing on rather than building the hand around the gun. You actually have to position the fingers to grip the gun. Here's another one of the later ones that I've painted. This one doesn't have as much weathering, although it has a pretty fine layer of dust, which is very annoying to take off. These pieces fold over, and they're supposed to link up. I'm not sure if it'll fit, but that's basically how it's supposed to go, like that. And that's kind of how he's advertised, is to kind of look like that. But I generally have him with his armor up. There's a really cool anime that's quite old now called 5-Star Stories, and their mecha are these colossal. I mean, they're gigantic. They're kaiju size, and it's a very interesting, very very samurai, as you can see here from the design. Very flamboyant. I think this one's called the this is not the Lead Mirage. I'm not sure what it's called. Night of Gold or what have you. And this one, I'm actually relatively happy with this paint job. It's basically the whole thing is just dry brushed gold with a black undercoat and some yellow highlighting. The issue with these models, they're not made by Bandai, I don't think. As a result, it's harder to pose in the pieces. If I try to pose this thing, his skirt will just fall to pieces. It's a very common thing with anime, specifically anime mech. They have this kind of skirt armor around their waist. And you can see the extremely flamboyant headpiece he has. I really like doing these ones. I like the flamboyantness about them, but they're very difficult to pose. This one's from the same series. He's got this extremely long, I do mean extremely long, lance weapon. So I generally keep it up like that. I probably wouldn't paint this guy in this style if I did it again, but like everything else, I do the black washed weathering, which is very much it is a choice. There's a lot of modern miniature painters that really hate this look, and they'll be very kind of, be honest, kind of judgy. But it's still a path I like. I like painting them. A very cool little, very big shield he has, which I think is really kind of neat. But he's, once again, because it's not a Bandai model, he's, as you can see here, it's very difficult to pose and have him stay that position. When I was in China, I actually picked up a couple models from there, and these are not from Gundam or Five Star. This is actually from Front Mission. I have actually not been able to find these models anywhere else. Very difficult to find in Canada. So I was really happy to pick some of these up in Hong Kong and then bring them back. Although it would be 5 or 6 years after I came back before I actually would tackle them. I really like this model. This is a model where I think the dry brushing is actually a good idea, because I think Front Mission is a bit more of a more grungy style, and I do like how I painted this, right? Some transparencies and some, I think, pretty cool looking. The only issue when you're painting these things, though, very often is that you build them in pieces and you don't think you're making progress, and then you finally assemble them all the way at the end, and that's how you get it. Like I said, I got 2 of them. Here's the other one. He's got a cool ass gun. I love that look. And once again, now we're moving away from Gundam, so we don't have that skirt armor. I'm not a huge fan of the skirt armor. I think it's kind of been done to death. And this is what got me back into it recently. I decided when I was at a convention to pick up this guy. So there is a bit of traditional, like my old style of um, black washing and detailing, but only in the darker bits. When it comes to his primary paint job, I just elected to go with a spray paint and just do a coating on that one, and did not do any highlighting. And I think that was the better choice. This guy is really, just really, really big. But anyway, yeah, this is just a little tour. And I used to have a lot more of these, but I'm thinking of getting back into them again.